Hello, once again, I'm BR Schultz. Thank you for joining me. It is going to be week 48 this coming Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. And I changed the title, obviously. The last slide's title was December 2nd, so it still might be December 2nd. That's the first business day of the new month in December, but I'm going to say November 29th just in case, obviously. I don't want to be off by the tiniest bit. The market should sell off over the weekend, let's say. And so the model has hit 2 in a row macro calls in the month of November so far. It called out November 1st as the bottom and November 19th and 20th. Both were spot on, and I think I've possibly gotten a near perfect algo working for the green wave. So the MJ model seems to be hopefully hitting at a high rate of accuracy for macro medium-term outlook calls now. That was my goal maybe a year ago or so. I decided I really wanted to master the midterm timing calls. So hopefully I've cracked that. This week we'll be looking at graphs that could be leaning towards a massive crash ahead. Maybe some of you saw that I think Druckenmiller sold all of NVIDIA shares like before earnings, things of that nature. Bezos donated $100 million supposedly towards fighting homelessness. So I think that's also a hidden tell that he took, that you're taking liquidity out of the system, so to speak, or out of their portfolios. So I think that's also a tell, possibly a little bit, when they're moving large sums of money in and out or to this place or that place. Obviously, people take notice, right? $100 million isn't exactly chump change. And my personal goal is hopefully I can make someone a millionaire over the next 4 months. So should the crash that I'm going to speak about with you today hopefully be highly accurate in its timing, and then obviously I'll be updating timing over the next 4 months as well to try to help make someone or a few people maybe millionaires. Who knows? I know that a lot of people have different strategies and obviously different amounts of resources at their disposal. So I imagine there's a few fish out there that are maybe not huge fish yet, but they just need really good timing. They could probably really become wealthy off of a really good player too. So I hope to be that guy, right, to help make that possible. So that's my goal. And obviously, when you serve others, eventually, or refresh others, as the Bible says, you yourself will be refreshed. So yeah, if I can serve others and make them extremely wealthy, then obviously you'd assume that the gifts might also increase as well, right? So that's usually how it works. You do well for others, they'll pitch back some to you. So let's dive into the graphs. Blah, 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 yakety schmackety. If you want to donate, you certainly can. And the link for PayPal is down below this video. If you would rather use a link, then scan a QR code that you have no clue where it's going to. Completely understand that one. Okay, so this is the short-term graph. Essentially, my models use a 1, 2, 3 system. There's a secondary 1, 2, 3. It's not in this graph, but essentially, this is the one I pulled up. Essentially, 1, 2, 3 though to the top of the graph using the green wave is the peak in the markets. Now, Thanksgiving is not pulled out of this data set, so you might be quick to say, well, that could push into the second. It could, but just be on the safe side. If markets were to peak on the 29th, that would be, this is kind of the micro scale, right? This is the daily, it's daily data. Basically, I made my own algorithm that breaks a daily open, high, low, close into multiple pieces, into 10-minute segments, if you will. So I know that probably blows some people's mind. I take 4 data points and turn it into 180 10-minute segments, essentially, or more, right? 100, I think it's 185 because it's 390 5-minute increments, I think, or something like that. I don't know. I think there's 390 minutes in a trading day. Anyways, I think I'm getting off topic. But anyways, so I take a algo, break it into 10-minute segments, just using open, high, low, close off the daily data, and then it creates all my waves for me, obviously. And then, so this is predicting that the next major peak, or let's say smaller scale peak, would be on the 29th. And then obviously I would need that to tie out to like a weekly scale model, right? To prove or to argue that this would indeed be the macro peak in markets, right? So using a smaller scale time frame like 10 minutes is not enough to say, hey, this is the macro peak. I think that the whole world could go to war after November 29th because of a smaller scale model. No, you need a larger scale model to try to drive home that point, right? So let's move on to the next graph. Okay, and so this is the weekly peak model. So you have a 1, 2, 3 here on the peak model. So basically I just took my peak algo for the daily scale and then I dropped weekly data into it, and sure enough, you see a peak here shooting out to the end of November 2024, which I thought was pretty sweet. So if this holds true, and the micro model or the medium scale model and then the macro model are both aligned, I think there's this very strong argument or possibility that the world economy goes into a tailspin. Maybe a war breaks out or something. I don't know what happens, or maybe the Fed sells off large they unwind their portfolio extensively for some reason, starting in December. I don't know, but as you know, the Fed, they have a tremendous amount of leverage over the economy in the S&P 500. So whatever their plans are, maybe their plans are to deleverage extensively in the first 2 weeks of December, and maybe they completely wipe out 10% of the market's equity in the first 2 weeks of December. That's kind of what I'm seeing, about a 10% drop in the first 2 weeks of December. We'll have to see. But as you can see, my two peak models are aligning. The previous graph was for the medium term, and this is for the macro view, right? It started back in early 2023, as you can see to the far left on the 1, and then it's extending all the way through the end of 2024. So it's about an 18-month cycle that we're looking at. Yes, so I think that this could be a very large scale type of 5-wave structural move after this peak. So then wave 1 down, where would that end, right? So you saw the short term or the medium term and the long term peaks roughly at November 29th, 2024. So then you might ask, well, if you were to take your medium term type model and ask it where the bottom is, or project where the bottom is, where exactly would it project the bottom or the end of wave 1 down from the November 29th peak in markets? Well, that's projecting roughly the December 16th timeframe. There's a holiday in there, so it could be December 17th. Somewhere around there, it's looking for a bottom. So that would be the first leg down. And I could see up to 10% of a drop in markets in this first leg from November 29th peak until the bottom in the futures on December 16th, 17th. So this is essentially how I would get how I would walk the audience through the different movements, right? I have that medium term model that can look out like 15, 20 days and try to pick a bottom. So again, that model picked out November 1st, got that one right. November 19th, 20th, the model picked that one out. On my blog, you could see that. So that was the second call correct. And these are kind of what I call rings for the MJ model. Michael Jordan was notorious for, a lot of championships. So essentially, each correct macro call, these swing points, is what I call a ring. So a championship ring, because it's pretty hard to be highly accurate at keep calling swing points, right? Every 15, 20 days, calling the correct swing point is just, you could really clean up well, right? And so that's kind of the goal of all this, was eventually to create some type of medium-term model that could pick up when the markets are going to shift directions every 14 to, let's say, 20 days. They change directions, pick up those pivot points. You could become very wealthy very quick. It wouldn't take very long, right? If you can identify the major turning points 2 or 3 times a month. So that is the goal that I want to do for the viewership. And obviously, with that, hopefully, that is kind of my my framework that I hope to possibly hear that maybe a few people become millionaires off of my work by the end of March. So again, I'm looking for roughly a 10% drop from November 29th down to December 16th, 17th, and then obviously I'd make another video trying to lay out where I believe the next peak would be. But as you know, with if it is truly a macro 5-wave cycle downwards, the bounce off of the December 16th, 17th low may be somewhat muted or sideways. So that will obviously be a little bit tricky, but hopefully we can talk about that near mid-December. Now, if markets sell off, let's say 17 to 20% by December 16th, 17th, obviously that would build a much easier case to say that markets could really jump back up, right? So if let's say markets sell off 20% or 1,200 points, let's say, and then from December 16th, 17th, markets could run back up 50%, right? They could run up that 600 points, and that wouldn't be too big of a problem. So maybe a 50% retrace off of each one of these sell-offs would be obviously a very middle of the road type of estimate. So we'll have to take the measurement when we get closer to mid-December, but that might be my projection is whatever we lose in each leg down, we gain back about 50 to 60% on the retrace. So at least that's what I'll frame as my original thought here. But again, if you know people, traders that enjoy or think that timing is impossible, hopefully over time I've proven myself that it is possible. Have I gotten a lot right all the time? There's been times where I've made horrible calls. Yes, very horrible calls. But in 2022, I think the model went 54 out of 57. So the track record was above, was legendary, beyond the legendary in how accurate one of my timing waves was. So, and then I screwed up huge after that. So it does happen. But my goal after 2022 was to create some type of mid-range model, like Michael Jordan swore that he would perfect his mid-range jumper. I wanted to hopefully follow in his footsteps and create a mid-range model that would be highly effective and accurate. So hopefully this is the solution, both on a daily mid-range scale and on a macro weekly long-term scale. As you'll see, or as you have seen, it can be a couple of years in the weekly scales prediction, or at least cycle that it uses to make the future prediction. So this is the weekly scale bottom model, and essentially you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 count out to the middle of March. So that's why I'm saying it could last up to 4 months. Whatever's about to happen. If worse comes to worse, you would see the bottom in markets at the end of March, mid to late March of 2025. So it's depends on how nasty it gets. But if November 29th is the peak on a small scale and a large scale, I believe that we would not bottom then until mid to late March 2025. Believe it or not. So that's why I'm saying I'm stocking up groceries, a little extra on hand. Some of the luxuries of life that you wouldn't want to go without for a few months if something were to happen, right? I mean, the ports could shut down. Let's say all of a sudden a war breaks out and all of a sudden Russia is deploying submarines around the world, right? It may affect the ports. We might shut the ports, things of that nature. I'm not sure what really could happen in a worst case scenario, or even a mild worst case scenario, right into March of 2025. But if things go haywire around the globe and supply chains hit major disruptions, you may not be able to get that much. So as it is the week of Thanksgiving and there's sales going on everywhere, me and my family we're putting more on hand. Maybe instead of buying a month's worth of some of these things that we can store for a long time, maybe we're buying two and a half months of, some extra soups or toilet paper, diapers, things that obviously you need diapers if you have a baby, right? So if you can't get diapers, then your world really comes to a halt. So things like that, we're trying to stock up on some of the essentials that would really be hard to do without. So obviously that's different for everyone's family or situation. But we're just trying to make sure that we would make it very comfortably through the next 4 months if things really go haywire around the world and supply chains get disrupted or ports get blocked or even stopped. Not sure what could happen, but this is kind of the reasoning behind the argument for a long-term bottom on a weekly scale not occurring until the end of Q1 2025. And then obviously this would play into effect hopefully making someone a millionaire, right? Because if you can pick out the very top on November 29th, 2024, and then the very, very bottom on, let's say, March 17th through 20th, 2025, if you were to play every swing point really well, you really could increase your portfolio value extremely well. Or even if you were to say, I'm just going to pick, hopefully if you hit the exact top, I'm just going to let it ride all the way through March, let the contracts roll or whatever, whatever. Everyone has their own risk tolerance. Obviously, I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form, so I don't have any advice as far as trading goes, but everyone has kind of their own idea of what a perfect collapse in the economy might look like and how to make the most money to the downside. So I would like to be able to use the short time frame 10-minute model to try to pick out the turning points for each of these 5-wave moves. What I believe is going to be a 5-wave move down into the mid-late March time frame. So wave 1 on a large scale would be November 29th peak into December 16th low would be roughly your first wave down, and then the 5th wave down would be sometime into March. So throughout my video series, hopefully over the next 4 months, I'll be laying that out, and I'll be trying to play each leg as well. So I'm long into November 29th peak, and then I'm going to take up a short position is my plan right now through around December 16th bottom, then go long until the next peak, which obviously will come out in the next video. But hopefully, who knows? Maybe I can make a couple people millionaire, and then then the gifts would hopefully rocket from there. So maybe I can report some really huge successes for my audience, and then obviously report back on gifts, the tally at the end of March 2025. So I really want to make people wealthy, right? It'd be a sincere accomplishment if you can really make your audience wealthy on YouTube simply through some of your timing models. That would be exceptional. So thank you so much for watching. I'm B.R. Schultz. Until next time, take care. So hopefully you've enjoyed my show today. Warning, this is all forecast use only. Come here. You want to read this for me? What does that say? Forecast?
Forecast.
Use?
Use only.
Only. Right. And what's this say?
Warning.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. I am not
A licensed investment professional. That's Latin. So say caveat emptor. Seek professional advice prior to investing. Investing bears risk
of
financial
loss.
Very good. And so basically this is saying if you ever try to invest in stocks or anything else, you could lose money. Warning, warning, warning. And all my graphs are subject to change. And not all the results are not always the same. Yeah. Thank you for reading for me.
You're welcome.
And that's it for today. I'm B.R. Schultz. Until next time, take care.